Another day, another region mod. This time it's the Arid Barrens, which was put together in a region jam by multiple members of the community. Along with this, as you can see on screen now, the Custom Regions mod has had a really important update. You can now download custom regions directly from a browser, and this makes it a lot more convenient to get these mods installed. So with that great quality of life improvement, I was ready to get started on the Arid Barrens. This new region says in the description that it connects farm arrays all the way over to shoreline, so I figured Hunter would be the best choice. Not knowing where the entrance would be, I first decided to head right. You know how as you head down this way there's a scavenger toll? Well, I kinda forgot about that. After wandering around for a while and not finding the right way to go, I decided to head back to the beginning and go left this time. Notice anything different about this room? I didn't at first, and I just went to save. On the way back out I did a double take. How the hell did I completely miss this? In any case, this is the gate to the Arid Barrens, which very generously requires only one karma on both sides. The early rooms when you entered this way reminded me a lot of Subterranean, complete with black lizards, and some nice red vegetation that stands out. There's a shelter close by if you head to the left, but I forgot to get food, so I headed back to find some. Here's a tip. If you need to get food, don't spear it directly over the death pit like an idiot. When I made it over to the right and into this room, I saw something that I really wasn't expecting to see. Water. I guess it makes sense for the caves to have water. The region wouldn't be able to support life without it. And if I were a lizard or whatever living in this place, I would probably just stay down here and not bother going up to the surface. Just a couple rooms later, and I had already found another shelter. You'll see that as a running theme in this region. It gives you a surprising amount of shelters to save at. I can't complain that it's being this generous, but I'm still surprised that they weren't spaced out a bit more than they currently are. Heading up one room, we made it out of the caves, and are given several options of where to go next. To the right is Centipede Town, and to the left is another pool of water with some snails. I also found this noodle fly with way too many children. I wasn't going to eat any of them. It seemed to be struggling enough as a single parent. Further to the right, and past the centipedes, this route led to a sub-region called the Tower. Unfortunately, by this point, the time on my cycle had pretty much already dried up. But I was ready to die. In the trailer for this region, I saw what looked like a sandstorm, and I was praying that this was going to be what killed me instead of just the normal rain. And let me tell you, I wasn't disappointed. So after getting torn to shreds, I headed back to the main room, and discovered that there was one direction I hadn't tried yet: up. At the surface, I discovered something that you don't usually see in region mods: Miros birds. Like memory crypts and Subterranean, they seem to like living in long stretches of land where their prey doesn't have many places to hide. And luckily for this slug cat, there were plenty of lizards around for them to catch. This distraction gave me more time to look at the details in the background. I really like how these windmills were done, and there's also several of those Leviathan-like structures that you would normally find in waterside areas, like shoreline. On the left side of the surface, I tried to run by these Miros birds. That was obviously a bad idea. Back to the same shelter, I decided I would commit to heading right through Centipede Town to see if I could make some progress. And after a while, through the watery, dark infrastructure, eventually I found another shelter. This is the first colored pearl I found in this region, but it wouldn't be the last. As the caves ended, I was eventually guided up back toward the middle of the Arid Barrens. This pole mimic almost tricked me, but then accidentally launched me in a perfect arc over this orange lizard. Don't ask me to do that again on purpose, I don't think I could. I hadn't realized how close the rain, or sandstorm, was, but then I saw that beautiful symbol that you always want to see, just in the nick of time. The next section headed straight up the side of a building, kind of similar to the wall, and as I went, it began to play Distance, the song that you can get around the upper right part of Farm Arrays. This is a really atmospheric track, and I like it because of how ominous it sounds. It's like the promise of danger to come, and that danger delivered when Mr. Ascending Vulture scared the shit out of me. At the top of the tower, I was surprised to discover that I had already made it to the gate to Shoreline. I wasn't about to leave this early, so I decided to go back the way I had come so I could explore some more. I'm guessing that these pits were probably based off of antlions. Some species of juvenile antlion create pits in the sand to trap their prey. Thankfully, this region doesn't come with any horrifying Rainworld equivalent of these animals. Although I gotta say, it would be pretty cool if there were giant antlions that killed you when you fell in. Not too far to the left, I found another shelter, as well as a scav hole. This dropwig decided to position itself in just about the worst place possible, but for some reason it didn't seem to notice anything going by. One scav hole later, and I made it back into the subregion of the tower. This place, or at least this room, reminds me a lot of that part in Sky Islands near the Echo. To the right is yet another shelter, as well as an exit from the ceiling which, at the time, I had no idea how to get to. If you head left from here, I discovered that it loops back to the surface area where the Miros birds are, and now that I was back, I was determined to discover what was on the other side of this screen. If there's any screen that I could pick as being the hardest in the region, it's this one. The Miros birds like to get stuck around the pit above the worm grass, and when they're in there, there's very little that you can do to convince them to move. I died many frustrating deaths here because the Miros birds got stuck, and it seems as though the best way to get through is just to wait for a cycle where they don't come to this screen. Eventually I made it through the upper left room, only for this to happen. I waited for a while, but the game over message never showed up. What a weird soft lock. When I made it past the Miros birds, for real this time, I found at the top a really nice looking satellite dish. You gotta appreciate how people are able to build such convincing structures out of the level editor's tiles and props. After a short while, I found that this path leads back to the gate to farm arrays. At this point I had explored most of the rooms I could see on the map, but one thing was still bothering me, that room above the shelter. So I headed back to see if I could find a way. I'm in, and it turns out there was something up here all along. This nice, brightly lit room has got to be one of my favorites in the region. For some reason, the red flowers made me automatically think of Cave Story, but with, less Mimigas going into rage mode. And here we find the second pink pearl. I'm glad I left that other pearl in the far right shelter, because the green neuron is in my stomach, and trying to get by with 2 pearls in your hands is not easy. So with this new pearl, and most of the region fully explored, I decided it was time to leave for Shoreline. Good start. The gate from Arid Barrens leads you to the upper part of Shoreline, and so it's not too hard to make it to Moon if you just keep heading right. I got lucky this time. There could have easily been vultures or king vultures along that long stretch of water leading up to Moon. If you're ever having trouble getting pearls to Moon, I would recommend doing them one by one. That's what I've had to do several times in the past. It leaves one hand free to carry a spear for safety, or even better, if you can put the pearl in your stomach, then you can use both hands to carry a jetfish. In any case, it's time for the pearl reading, and man was I pretty excited for some new lore. If you had your hopes up though, you might want to lower them a bit. And by a bit I mean a lot, because this is what the pearl said. Yeah, I'm out of here. Despite those very disappointing pearls, I had a lot of fun exploring the Arid Barrens overall. The dark caves with their swimming sections, the wide open surface, which was almost as dry as my voice. It was cool to read the description of the region and learn that the area on the right side was actually a dam built to keep out the waters of shoreline. That explains why most of this place became a desert. I know this was a region jam made by multiple people, but they did a good job at connecting their areas together. Honestly, I think this was one of the easier region mods out there. Despite playing on Hunter, I didn't encounter that many Hunter-specific enemies, and there were lots of shelters whenever you needed one. But there's nothing wrong with a little more laid-back experience, and if you're looking for another region mod to play, then I would definitely recommend checking out the Arid Barrens for yourself.